Hi, I'm Sabrina Watkins, franchise owner of Lucky Go Coffee here in Frisco, Texas.
What's something about coffee beans most people have no idea about?
Well, one thing a lot of people don't know about coffee beans is that it's actually part of a fruit. It's a cherry, and the bean is kind of the seed that's inside this cherry. So, for some people that are new to coffee or just never thought about how coffee beans come to be in your coffee maker, that is something that people are often surprised to learn.
How does roasting completely change the flavor of coffee?
So the roasting process is very complex. At Lucky Goat, all of the roasting happens in Tallahassee, Florida. It's a big roasting facility. And there's lots of technology involved, a lot of different details, and all of those details combine together to make something a light roast or a darker roast. All of our flavored coffee, as an example, is roasted with aromatic oils. And so that's how you get the goat tracks, the chocolate caramel notes, and snowflake crunch, all the different flavors that we have throughout the year. Those get incorporated through the roasting process through those oils. So there's a lot involved.
Which style do you like personally?
I like a darker roast in general, and then for our flavored coffees, typically I'm not a big flavored coffee person, but I really do like the way we do it with the oils versus chemicals, so it just feels very natural. It's very subtle.
Okay, if I'm just a customer, which I am, how does your roasting process improve my experience?
So the roasting process improves the experience because it maintains the quality of the end product. So the beans are specialty grade beans, so you're starting off with a really good quality foundation. But that roasting process is also very intentional, as I mentioned, very detailed, and so you really get the best out of that bean as well. And so what that looks like for the customers when they're enjoying their coffee, all of that goes into that. Wow, this is some really good coffee that we tend to hear customers say. It really is about the bean and then the roasting, and then freshness. We don't keep our beans on shelves or in inventory very long, so it's always fresh.
Gotcha. Let's talk about the customer experience. You touched on that. What's one detail you focus on that most coffee shops ignore?
So I don't know that, it's something that most coffee shops ignore, but I will say one of the things that we try to really focus on is the customer experience. It's something as simple as being greeted when you walk in the door and being greeted as you're exiting the cafe. That can go a long way. So, sometimes we tend to focus on just the product, just the drink itself, which is very important, but we've got that down. Some of those intangible things, like how the customer is made to feel when they come in, is something that can be overlooked, but I think it's to the detriment of the overall customer experience, which plays a big role in things.
Right. And you guys open at what time?
We open at 6:30 in the morning during the week.
6:30 in the morning during the week. How does that elevate someone's day for their coffee experience?
Well, for a lot of people, if you're a daily coffee drinker, that coffee is an important part of getting the day going. And so, as I was talking about that customer experience, people enjoy having their coffee at home, and plenty of people get our beans to enjoy their coffee at home. But there's a ritual that goes along with that. Those that decide to enjoy their coffee either in the cafe to sit down or they take it to go, that's part of that ritual, that morning ritual as well. So that experience that you have when you come in, from that first hello to being greeted with a smile, the latte art that we put on every cup, that can set the tone for someone's day. And so you keep that in mind, especially in that, for those morning customers.
What kind of experience do people get when they walk in here? I know you talked about the greeting and all that.
Yeah, they get greeted. They're welcomed with a smile. We're not very pretentious, even though it's specialty grade coffee. You come in, whether you're a coffee connoisseur and you know all the things about the difference between a single origin and our signature blend and all of that, or if it's your first time and you're actually just started drinking coffee, We take the time, if time is needed, to explain things. So just the kindness, our customer interactions is just something that we're really intentional about. We feel like that can set us apart. We're not the only provider of good coffee in this area. People have a lot of options for really good coffee. And so sometimes what that difference is just how you're treated, how you feel when you're within our space. That's what we can control. So.
Yeah. For first-time coffee drinkers, what would you recommend that they have?
I would recommend that they try, if they're just into drip coffee, just try our coffee of the day, our drip of the day. It's going to be either Billy Goat, Roastmasters, or Mountain Goat, which is part of our signature coffees. It's a really great start. And then if you are kind of have moved into the espresso lane, or that's what you kind of like, that, espresso and milk, I would say trying one of our signature lattes is a really good place to start for that too.
Why did you choose this brand specifically to invest in?
So that's a great question. I considered a lot of different brands. There were a couple of things that kind of aligned, for me, for this to be where I chose. I discovered Lucky Goat when I was in Tallahassee for a visit a couple of years ago, and they were just getting started with their franchising program. As a matter of fact, when I initially reached out, they said they weren't franchising. Only a few months after that did they kick off their program, and so I got that marketing email to let me know that was happening. So because they were new to franchising, the barrier of entry was a little bit lower, right? Your established franchises, can cost a lot to invest in, right?
Yes,
If you want to open even more, if you want to open a Chick-fil-A, you've got to have $1 million in the bank, that sort of thing.
Yes.
So that allowed me as a newcomer, new to this space, to be able to invest in it. So that was one reason. And then the other reason, which was probably the more important reason for me, is I loved the product and I loved the brand. When I walked into that corporate cafe in Tallahassee, I was like, oh, I like this. Not only was the coffee really good, but the vibe of the coffee shop was something I really liked too. Because it'd be hard for me to own a physical brick and mortar space and not be in love with the look and feel, not be in love with the vibe, all that sort of stuff.
Because you can experience burnout if you do not love what you do.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't want that. Yeah, and I spend a lot of time in here, so I want to.
You got to enjoy
I want to enjoy it.
Right. What has owning this location taught you about business?
It has taught me kind of expanding that to just about entrepreneurship or just kind of running a business, is that the devil is in the details, which has always been one of my favorite sayings, even when I was in the corporate space, because I believe that. I believe that oftentimes, the solution is in the details, the problem is in the details, the root cause of a situation is in the details. So owning my own business has kind of reinforced that is often the case. That is very true. Also, it's been a big learning curve just managing staff that are all in their early 20s, at that point where they're figuring out life, and that comes with its challenges and rewards, but definitely a new muscle I've had to stress.
Yeah, you mentioned the corporate space. What were you doing prior to owning this franchise?
So I was in the nonprofit space in the 8 or so years immediately prior to opening this coffee shop. But before that, I spent 15 years with American Airlines. Large major airline in the for-profit space. And then the nonprofits I worked for were national nonprofits. One was kind of started cause marketing, Susan G. Komen, and then I worked for a newer nonprofit, but one that was very well funded. It was one of Jeff Bezos's. It still exists. It was one of his philanthropic organizations. So just a lot of structure and process and diligence. That's my background.
Okay, I'm going off script. How did you know you were tired of let's say the corporate culture and you wanted to dive into franchise ownership or business ownership?
It's been that's been kind of a long arc to that story.
Yeah.
Even when I was in the for-profit space, I knew I wanted to pivot and do something that had a little bit more meaning beyond a bottom line or shareholder value or something like that, which is why I made the transition to the nonprofit space. And I really did enjoy working on behalf of a mission, right? And it being focused on what we were providing and what we were contributing to the world, again, beyond dollars and cents. From there, it really became about more, having control over what it is I was doing and wanting to truly just own my own thing.
Right.
And determine what my days look like. Now, do I always determine what my days look like? Sometimes it's a no, because if I come in and I've got a day planned and something happens with the espresso machine, then that determines what my day is going to be. But, it's at the end of the day, because I work hard and longer than I ever have in any of those jobs when I was working for other organizations.
Yeah.
But there is some satisfaction that at the end of the day, all of that effort is going towards something that is mine.
You are a Black franchise owner here in Frisco. That's a major accomplishment. What does that mean to you personally?
It means a lot to me personally, not only being a Black franchise owner, but a woman owner, single woman owner, single Black woman over 50, you know what I mean?
Over 50?
Well, I turned 50 last year, yes.
Wow, look amazing.
So all of those things, I'm proud of, because all of those things brings its own unique challenges. But I also will say I didn't spend a lot of time, and still don't spend a lot of time, focusing on it, other than I'm intentional about making sure this space feels welcoming to everyone. I'm proud to say that I really do feel like I've achieved that. My staff is diverse. Sometimes you come in here and it's soul music like you have now, or that you're listening, hearing now, or jazz. Sometimes the only genre I tell the staff they cannot play, because I just can't deal with it, is rock. But there's different vibes when you come in here. I had a DJ come and do a house set after hours on Saturday. A lot of folks from Chicago. So there's just different things. I have a mahjong group that comes. These two ladies that teach mahjong. So there's a lot of diversity in what we do, the different events we have, and so we've really built a unique community where really anyone can come in and plug in and find something that they say, oh yeah, I'm good with that. Like that resonates with me, and that I'm proud of. My background is I spent all of my childhood in mostly white spaces, and then went to an HBCU for college. Best time of my life. And so, no group is a monolith. No group is just the one thing. And so when you come in here, you kind of this reflects that.
Yeah. Wow. What impact do you hope your presence here has on others who walk through your doors?
Part of what I was just talking about everyone feeling welcome, and feeling like, there's a lot of negativity out in the world these days. I mean, it's probably always been the case, but I think for some reason people are feeling even more of it now, and stress and anxiety and just all the things. And so I hope when people come in here, there's a little spark of joy. There's some kindness in there. There's some enjoyment, pleasure. Drinking a good cup of coffee brings pleasure. So that's the impact I'm hoping, that this is a bright spot in anyone's day, no matter what else is going on in that person's day outside of this space. When they're in here, there's a little bit of that.
Yeah, their guards drop and they become more relaxed walking in here.
Yeah, they see a barista that they know. Yeah. They get their latte and there's a flower on it. All of those things.
Just that added touch. Any last words you want to say to our final guest? Any final words you would like for our guests to know about the Lucky Goat Coffee?
No, I just, for anyone who's not familiar with us,
Yeah.
I invite you to come in and check it out for yourself. Definitely follow us on social. Lucky Goat El Dorado Parkway. Parkway is abbreviated. We post about our events and different things that we have going on there. So that's a great way to just stay in the loop on what we've got going on. But yeah, come check us out.
All right. All right. Thank you, Sabrina, so much for speaking with us on a 10-minute pop up.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.